Welcome to the Blood Angels Commander channel.
Hello, good evening. I feel like things are working, but it's telling me that my bandwidth is low. Sometimes YouTube does that. Good evening. Let me know if you can hear me okay. How's everybody? Good evening, Killer. How you doing? Cool. Right, so we are live. People are starting to show up. What's happening in the Sunday evening? Hello, Rez. How you doing? Tit to wound. What's good? Mike, good evening. Flowbrain. Hello. Cool. We've been getting a lot of submissions for the Army List show, actually, like way more than I expected. Especially with the Arcs of Omen season, I don't know, being like this sort of wacky end of edition season where war gear doesn't cost anything and all sorts of nonsense. We've been getting a lot of submissions. Yeah, it was cool to get a shout out on Tabletop Tactics. I did fix, if anyone was on the stream last night, I dropped my guy. I dropped him. So I fixed his spear this morning, I pinned his spear here. And I also made it shorter, because it's supposed to be a sword, right? No, it's not perfect, but it is pinned and it is fixed. I dropped him when I was painting him last night. Excuse any, like, swearing on the stream last night when I dropped him. I was pretty annoyed. It happens. Good evening, Robert. Braydon, glad you're here. We're going to start with your boarding actions list. We've just got one boarding actions list this week, then we'll get fired into main lists. But great, Braydon is here. Let's talk about boarding actions, because I missed his list last week. He is the Gillinaut after all. Yeah. Yeah, Tabletop Titans are a channel that I have watched for a while. What's funny is I've been subscribed to them on my personal channel for a while, but I never subscribed to them with Blood Angels Commander. I guess because like usually when I'm on YouTube as Blood Angels Commander, I'm just doing Blood Angels things. So I subscribed to them today on my on Blood Angels Commander. But I mean, I've been watching them for ages. I've just been subscribed with my other account. Alright, boarding actions. Mephiston, 125 points. You didn't say what powers you're going to take. Powers to take in boarding actions, I guess, are going to be... You're not going to be able to take Wings of Sanguinius. Right, so you're going to want Quickening. You're going to Unleash Rage. And he gets a third power. I guess probably Shield... or Blood Boil. Probably Shield. So yeah, I think that's what you want to pick for him. You've got a squad of Assault Intercessors with a Plasma Pistol and a Thunderhammer on the Sergeant. That's how I made my Assault Intercessors. Assault Intercessors for Blood Angels. There's no way to take Infernal Pistols on the Assault Squad. What's the rules say in the Space Marine book again? I mean, I haven't done it either. I actually made a Assault Intercessor for a tournament recently, and I ran him with the same Plasma Pistol Thunderhammer. Because there was a bit in the War Gear section. I think it might actually be in the Blood Angels Codex, right? About putting on Infernal Pistols. How does that work again? It's been a long time since I did it. I'm sure it was in the Blood Angels Codex. Oh, it'll just be any time it specifically says you can use from the pistols weapon list. Is that what it says? I honestly don't remember. Someone remind me. How does that work again? I mean, Assault Intercessors specifically call out what weapon options they can take. It's a pity, but yeah, I mean, the Plasma is fine. Plasma or Flamer? Okay, fine. I mean, I prefer an Infernal Pistol, but Plasma's okay. Good evening, Mark. Good evening, Mike. PM covers, hello. And then you've got a Vanguard Veteran Squad with all power swords and storm shields, which is a cool way of keeping their points cost very reasonable, actually. 125 points for the Van Vets with the storm shields. I guess that's equivalent of, like, 3 Blade Guard Vets. Do I prefer... I mean, the thing about Blade Guard Vets is all their swords are 2 damage. So yeah, I'm not sure I think like the strength of Vanguard vets, in my opinion, is probably the jump packs. 5 Vanguard veterans against like 3 Blade Guard veterans. I mean, I guess this fits in with your list though, right? Because if you do Blade Guard veterans, you're never going to. They're 105 points for 3. It does feel like maybe the Blade Guard are slightly better here, or a better option. But it wouldn't quite fit in the list. And then you've got Terminators with Storm Shields and Thunderhammers. I still think there's value on those Terminators to have a couple with Lightning Claws. Because you never know what Terminators are going to fight. And if Terminators are going to fight models with 1 wound, then 3 damage hammers are going to be super ineffective, right? So Lightning Claws on a couple of those Terminators is how I'm running them. I'm actually running 10 Terminators in my GT list, or my potential GT list at the moment. And each squad is 3 Thunderhammers and 2 Lightning Claws. Thunderhammer on the Sergeant to get that extra attack on the Thunderhammer as well. Okay. So yeah, I mean, this isn't bad for boarding actions. I've yet to play boarding actions. It's going to be a couple of months until I play it. But something like this is not bad. I think the list I'd come up with was very similar. It was like Blade Guard, Terminators. I think I'd taken Infiltrators for the Deep Strike Denial, and then like a different HQ. But I think something around this is probably what we're going to see for Blood Angels. We're probably going to see 4-man units for Space Marines, unless they give us a way to include Voidsmen at Arms, because they're really cheap for 40 points. Otherwise, I think I'm probably running something like this with 4 units. You know what's dumb is is I had just modified the assaults in the Sergeant to have bolt pistols a couple of months back because they were cheaper and didn't care about plasma. I mean, that's the thing to be wary of this season, Reziel. I fully expect next edition or next season all the war gear will have points again. So I'm, rather than like convert shitloads of models, I'm just playing with what I've got and painting up what I've had in progress. Because I think that it's only going to last this one season. Isn't the single claw the best one-handed weapon statistically almost across the board for Vanguard veterans? It's good, right? But it costs points, whereas a power sword is free. Power sword is more AP than a lightning claw. I think a lightning claw is -2. I'm confused at the AP of a lightning claw because of armor of contempt. I think made it -1. But yeah, I mean, statistically for a lot of other factions, I guess the lightning claws are best. They cost points though, whereas like the power sword is free. Oh, get away with your ads. How do I get rid of the ads? Lightning claw is -2, right? Yeah, so I mean, like for Blood Angels, lightning claws are good, but typically, like, I feel like in boarding actions, most of the time you're not going to be fighting stuff with super high toughness anyway. So if the strength 5 from your power sword with the +1 to wound is still going to give you a reasonably decent wound roll, and it's going to have more AP than the lightning claw, then I feel like it's possibly better. You do get additional attack with lightning claw. You do also get those reroll wounds, which come in really well with the +1. But you know, it's 3 points per model. If you like, how many points is left in this list? Probably nothing, right? 125, 125. That's 250, and then yeah. So he's got no points. So he couldn't take any. The only option he's got is maybe drop, or Storm Shield's 3 points per model. I forget how much a Storm Shield is. 5 points per model. All right, so he could drop like a Storm Shield or 2 for a couple of Lightning Claws, but I don't think I really rate that either. I think that's why we like. I think if Lightning Claws had been free, or I think that if Storm Shields hadn't stayed as many points, we'd have seen loads of people run more Storm Shield Lightning Claw Van Vets, because we saw that earlier this edition when they were a bit cheaper, right? But we haven't seen that much. We haven't seen that much at all since. I think it's because like a Vanguard veteran with Lightning Claw and Storm Shield's like 31 points per model. And Terminators are like 33 now, and they can have Thunderhammers, and so people are sort of like comparing them. They kind of do a different role, but yeah, who knows what's going to happen with Marines next season? I'm just going to be wary of making too much like sweeping advice about like what's going to happen with Marines, because I very much doubt War Gear is going to remain free. Good evening, not enough. Ivan says power swords are higher strength too. They are, but obviously you have one less attack with a power sword. Turkey says I think the lightning claw is better than the power sword, except against stuff with no wound rerolls. The extra attack and rerolls beats the improved strength. It doesn't. It doesn't. Turkey. I guess, like for example, right? Let's say you were fighting enemy marines, right? Because they're tough. They're toughness 4. So if you have a power sword on Blood Angels, you wound on 2s, right? Because you are why? Because you're strength 5 with +1 to wound. So your power swords wound on 2s at the -3. So the lightning claws would wound on 3s, which are re-rolled, but they're only -2. So at that point, it's almost identical, right? Like a power sword at -3 with 1 less attack, wounding on 2s, is pretty much identical to 1 extra attack from a lightning claw, wounding on 3s, re-rolling 3s, but with 1 less AP, right? Like if you actually nitty-gritty that down, there's barely anything in it. And then it comes down to, well, the power sword's 3 points cheaper per model, and if you're just trying to kill enemy marines, then there's nothing in it, so the power swords are fine, right? I'm not disagreeing that lightning claws are probably best, but lightning claws are 3 points per model, so that starts stacking up pretty quickly when you put them across like 5 models, right? Him says that he's had a fair amount of Blade Guard success with Blade Guard recently. Yeah, I find Blade Guard go either way. They can either be the best unit on the board, or they can just get killed in one turn. But I guess you could say that about lots of units, right? I think I did the math back, and I think the only time a power sword was better with Van Vet was better on a Van Vet was against stuff that was T8 with a low save. DTM is about to tell us Power Swords v Marines is about 1.39 damage, Claws is about 1.58. Okay, so the Claws are better. They're I guess what, 0.02 damage better, but they're 3 points per model. So your call. Like I don't know if that's worth it. I mean, Power Sword, if you're trying to keep the unit cheap, then I guess Power Swords are fine. If you're willing to pay the extra points, Lightning Claws are good. It seems like no one's willing to pay those extra claws or extra points, right? Because like, well, we're about to look at 5 Blood Angels lists. When we get to the end of them, let's see if anyone's put in a list with Vanguard Veterans and Lightning Claw Storm Shields. Because Lightning Claw Storm Shields are a good unit. Don't get me wrong, they are a good unit. Their +1 to wound on the rerolls for wounds for Lightning Claws is very tasty for Blood Angels, and that's why I always kind of say on Terminators I think they're good still. Because like, even if you're fighting toughness 8, your Lightning Claws will still wound on 4s. No, Lightning Claws will wound on 5s for Blood Angels, but you get to reroll everything. So it's still a 50% chance to wound, right? Even on toughness 8, if you've got Lightning Claws. So like, if you've got 2, if you're trying to finish off a tank and you need to do 1 wound against it, for example, you know, the Thunderhammers did the rest. Lightning Claws will typically manage to do 1 wound if you're making like 10 hits and you're wounding 50% of the time, right? And it's going to be -3, I suppose, if you're an Assault Doctrine, okay? Alright, so I'd love to get a review of this list. And I admit I'm trying Predators out based on what you're doing. So he's saying spicy nuggets. I don't know if Predators are spicy nuggets, but Tabletop Tactics mentioned the Predators last night, so that was pretty cool. Is it okay to use Stratagem, Warlord trait, Artisan of War, Artificer Armor, and Stratagem Relic, Teeth of Terror on the Sanguinary Priest? You can't use... hold on. So you've taken Teeth of Terror, Artisan of War to get Artificer Armor. Yeah, I mean, you can do that if he's your Warlord, right? You need to use the Angel's Exemplar Stratagem, but you can do that. Yeah, I think you can... All your non-Warlord characters can have 1 Warlord trait and 1 Hero of the Chapter. But your Warlord can have 1 Warlord trait, 1 Relic. That costs you 2 CP, and then you can pay 1 CP for a Master... for Artisan of War, which would give you the ability to take a one of those special, like, 5 things, whatever they're called. Alright, so it's a Chief Apothecary Selfless Healer, and the Sanguinary Priest is the Warlord, okay, and a Captain on a bike with a Thunder Hammer and a Plasma Pistol, and he is the Chapter Master. I'm not sure if I love a... Like, you've got free options for wet war gear now. Infernal Pistol sounds better to me. Combi Melta potentially sounds better to me. You got 2 squads of Infiltrators, Helix Gauntlets, that's fine. You've got Blade Guard Veterans 5 with the Neo Volkite. You've got Terminators ×2, 5. Unfortunately, you didn't say what weapon options you had on these Terminators, but I think the best one is, if you're going to go melee Terminators, then go 3 Thunderhammers, 2 Lightning Claws. If you really want to go 5 Thunderhammers, go for it, but Thunderhammers aren't that many attacks. If you ever get stuck in combat for more than 1 turn, the Thunderhammers will basically drop down to like 2 attacks. And that's where maybe your Lightning Claw guys also come in, because they basically double, right? They get 4 attacks. So you're fighting 1 wound enemies, your Thunderhammers are super efficient, and you don't get that many attacks. So that's why I like to run 3 Thunderhammers, 2 Lightning Claws in each squad, but I mean, each to your own. You get Death Company with 4 hammers and 2 squads. You got 3-man Centurions with bolters and meltas. Alright, you're probably going to want to reserve the Centurions, because getting them across the board is probably going to be pretty difficult. You have, I mean, you're probably going to want to reserve, have the Terminators and Deep Strike as well. You've got the Land Speeder at 60. You've got the Ball Predators in at 110 ×2. Assume that you've got the twin autocannon on top of the Ball Predator. Didn't mention it. We've got the Whirlwind with the Castellan launcher. We've got an Impulsor, I guess, probably most likely for the Blade Guard veterans. And then he spent Angel's Exemplar, that's what I was talking about. He spent that to basically... It gives his Warlord something additional. But he didn't say what he's... He didn't say. He just said he spent the Warlord trait to give his Warlord something else. I imagine it's Artificer Armor or something like that, or Rites of War. Typically, if I was going to run that Warlord, I'd probably run Armor Indomitus, because I think that the second the enemy gets on that Warlord, they kill him. I've played the Sanguinary Priest in enough games to know that he dies to anything stronger than a Stiff Breeze. So if you want to run the Sanguinary Priest and you're going to spend 150 points on him, I feel like you want to have a survivability relic on him like Armor Indomitus, unless you're like the best player ever. Because, trust me, the Sanguinary Priest is difficult to hide. Regardless of how good or bad the player you are. I feel like my movement in most games is genuinely really good. I don't come out of too many tournament games going, oh, that movement fucked me up. You know, like, most of the time I'm on point with my movement and my stratagems or whatever. But the Sanguinary Priest can still get picked off fairly easily. And if the game ever becomes strung out, and when I say strung out, it means that you've had a bad couple of turns maybe, and you're trying desperately to claw your way back in, and you need the Sanguinary Priest to go off maybe and stand on objective by himself, just to because you're going to need to hold primaries to win the game, then having something that gives him more wounds, better armor, and an invulnerable save potentially, that's how I would run the Sanguinary Priest. Joel says I haven't got a single box of Vanguard Vets, even though everybody says they're good. When everybody was going hard on Van Vets last year, Joel, I bought 4 boxes. I built like 3 with Thunderhammers, 3 with Power Fists, 3 with Chainswords, and then like 11 with Lightning Claws. So I can go Vanguard Veterans. We're not seeing them. Like, it's 30. I think 31 points per. They're more expensive than a Sanguinary Guard. Yes, they have an invulnerable save, but they're still very vulnerable against mortal wounds. And I don't know, we're just not seeing them yet. I'm trying to think when we used to see them. I think when we used to see them, it cost 140 points. So it would have been like 28 points per model. So I guess they're just up 3 points per model. And we're not seeing them. Does anyone know why people are... What? I mean, you guys in chat, why are you not running Vanguard Veterans with Lightning Claws? I see we've got 45 people viewing tonight. We've only had 11 likes on the stream. So if you guys got 2 seconds, please hit that like button. It does help me out. Okay. Both Death Company and Vanguard Veterans feel weak in comparison. Death Company feel... They're an Alpha Strike unit. They're pretty much always going to trade and then die. But as long as you can always trade up with Death Company, that's fine. I don't think Vanguard Veterans always trade up. 9 games on the Teeth of Terra plus Artificer Armor on a jump Sanguinary Priest, and he's never survived one fight. Yeah, that's what I'm talking about. Like, PM covers. He gets picked, man. I've run the Sanguinary Priest now for like a year, and I just ran him as cheap as he could be, so like 90 points plus the jump pack. Because I tried running Rights of War in him, but decided against it because sometimes when you want Rights of War, you need to be in the thick of it to get your Rights of War bonus. And while I would have liked him to do that, it almost felt like every time I put him in with Rights of War, he just died. So I ended up running Rights of War on my captain on the bike, because he's got toughness 5, and he's got 4 up in Van, and he's got like, if you give him armor and Indomitus, he's got like 7 wounds, I think. So I always did that just because it felt like, here's a guy that will just have Rights of War and will just survive. And I don't mind throwing my captain on a bike onto an objective by himself, because if you're going onto an objective by yourself and there's nothing to fight, you can advance on there. So if they do shoot you, you can make them -1 to hit. If they do hit you with a lot of stuff, you can activate your armor and Indomitus. And also he can heroically intervene. So generally, if you put him in the center of the objective, because he's on that bike base, if they try and touch any part of the objective, you're going to be able to heroic intervene, and then you'll be able to fight. And he's got Thunderhammer, and you don't have to worry about him surviving again. So, yeah. So, like in this list, if this was me, I'm having the captain on the bike as my warlord. I feel like with a 20-inch guaranteed move, he can easily keep up with any jump units that he needs to keep up with. In this list, he probably doesn't actually need to keep up with much anyway, right? Because you're probably going to give Chapter Master rerolls to the Death Company, they jump off. You give Chapter Master rerolls to the other Death Company next turn, they jump off. So it's more about like him just joining Deep Strikers. Well, he can do that with a 14-inch move or 20-inch advance easily enough. Yeah, so in some ways, like these are like, this is 5 of the 6 elites that I have on my list at the moment. I'm running Blade Guard, I'm running 2 Assault Terminators, I'm running 2 Death Company. I am not running Centurions, I'm running Sandguard. I'm running 2 Ball Predators, which I think are okay for 110 points. I'm running the Impulsor. I'm not running the Whirlwind at the moment, but the general consensus is the Whirlwind is very good for Fight Last. 2 Infiltrator Squads as well is also generally very good. So overall, I think this list is good. Maybe I would like to lose these Centurions for 1 more faster unit, and I feel like what I was trying to say to people is like have 3 durable units. Well, there's 3 durable units, and then have 3 fast units. So in this case, kind of have 4 durable units, or you could say the Centurions are half a durable unit, because although they seem durable on paper, they actually don't have invulnerable saves. So that the second they get hit by high EP, they become undurable. So that's this is an okay list. There's not too much I would change. Just I question making the Sanguinary Priest the most. If you were going to run like multiple squads of Sandguard and have him jump around with them and be screened by them and be survivable and add the Feel No Pain to the Sandguard, I could maybe get on board with this build. But for me, I feel like the Warlord would just be better on the Captain on the bike. Something to say as well for this build is you could get quite a lot of value from Quake Bolts in that you've got 4 squads that have Thunderhammers, so they're obviously -1 to hit. And then you've got 1 squad that's Centurions, who, although they're not -1 to hit, they're not core or anything, so Quake Bolts benefits them as well. So you could get quite a lot of value on Quake Bolts, which you could put on the Chapter Master. Cost you 1 CP. I think it could be pretty decent, so something like that. Sadly, 3x7 Sanguinary Guard spam seems to be the most efficient way to play jump pack units. I think that might be gone, honestly. Like, maybe some people are still going to run 3x7 Sandguard. For me, they don't seem good enough now with the loss of Armor of Contempt. I had a lot of problems with them before. Before Armor of Contempt came out, I used to always complain about Sandguard, saying like, I think Sandguard would be fixed if they had like the 5-up invulnerable save from. They're wearing Artificer armor, right? In the rules, Artificer armor is a 2-up, 5-up. I remember saying before they released Armor of Contempt, I was saying give Sanguinary Guard like +1 to their armor save rather than like -1 to hit in melee or something, right? Like give them something to make them more survivable. At 30 points a model, it's so much to lose, right? And like if you think about the Death Company, The Death Company at what, 155 points? So basically the same as 5 Sangre Guard. The Death Company with 4 Thunderhammers, they jump in, they kill a unit, and then they always die, right? Like, that's literally how you play that Death Company. In turn 1, you give them Chapter Master rerolls, you give them Assault Doctrine, and you trade up. You look for a unit that costs more than 155 points, you sacrifice that Death Company to kill the unit. In turn 2, you do the exact same thing with a second Death Company, right? Like, that's how most people play these. That's how you get the most value out of these. They're obscured, so they can't be shot. 1 Forlorn Furies or jumps forward, and that's how you do that, right? So if you now say Sangre Guard are like, what, 150 for 5? Well, I don't think they have the same killing power as the Death Company. Part of their points costs, whatever you want to call it, is the better armor save and the -1 to hit in melee. But I don't know if that, for me, well, in like my meta, like Sangre Guard and cover are still dying without getting saving throws and stuff. It's just ridiculous now, right? So I guess until the meta changes from every army running a shitload of -4 AP or something like that, I'm running 5 Sangre Guard. I think it's fine. I do like them. I do like the heroic intervention. I just don't know if I feel like I can run more than 5. Again, it's going to be terrain dependent, and you have to make a call on the terrain you play at your local tournament or at your store or wherever it is you play. You need to make a call on, can you obscure these guys, bearing in mind that all the other armies now are able to reserve half of their units at no CP cost. So if you're playing against Iron Hands, you're going to have like Eradicators coming in. They're going to be -5. You're going to have Devastators coming in. They're going to be -5. You're going to have multiple tanks coming in, also probably bringing -4s and -5s. Yes, you can screen a bit, but can you screen out like 3 squads of Sangre Guard and 2, like, you need a lot of terrain to basically hide. And I think like if we go back like to the lists that were doing really well, like 3 Death Company, 3 Sangard. That was like what Blood Angels were winning tournaments with. I'm pretty sure that's what Jack won LVO with, right? 3 Death Company, 3 Sangard. If it's not, it's very close to that, right? You need a lot of terrain to hide all that and assume that there's nowhere your opponent's going to be able to come on with basically placing half their army in strategic reserve. And if they see a unit, they'll kill a unit, right? Like a squad of Eradicators. I think if you do the math of a squad of like Iron Hand Eradicators, you'll lose the whole squad of Sangre Guard. Because it'll be like hitting on 3s, rerolling 1s. They get 8 shots for like 120, 130 point model. Let me check that. So they bring in Eradicators with heavy melt rifles. So they do a minimum of 3 damage per shot, right? So every shot that goes through your armor kills a guy. They get like a squad of Eradicators can have 8 shots. Yeah, I guess half of them are going to instantly kill. Half of them he's going to have to roll damage, I think. But not if it's half range, which is possible as well. So let's just assume it's half range, right? So it's hitting on 3s, rerolling 1s, so it's 77% times they wound on 2s. So basically, 135 point of Eradicators will, because you won't get to roll a save, right? Because they're -5. They'll kill 5 Sangre Guard from full. They'll kill 5 Death Company from full. They'll kill 5. Surprisingly, actually, Infiltrators are going to be the best unit against them because they'll have to deep strike out with half range, and the Helix Gauntlet will let you ignore one of the damages going through, right? But yeah, so that's important, I think. And like that goes for like, I don't know, crisis suits, right? Like if they can put 10 crisis suits in reserve now. The range on those crisis suits is crazy. They're all AP -4. So like Sangre Guard are only saving on 6s, and every shot is wound. They'll be wounding on 2s, of course, but I was going to say every shot is going to be 3 damage again. So even if you've got a priest next to you, your chances of actually surviving any of that is like next to none. So then we get to the point where we're like, all right, so we need to we need to be reserving the Sangre Guard, right? Or we need to be reserving some stuff. I really think that the half your army can go into strategic reserve for no command points is kind of breaking the game for me. But we'll see. I'm not sure I like that this season. I think it's a bit silly. Because it's hard enough to hide that many units anyway. Alright, next list. PJ Murray. He is a chapter master with Soul Warden, Infernal Pistol, Rites of War, and Angel's Exemplar. Yes, Rites of War, Soul. Hold on, I'm missing something. Oh no, he's got no relic on this guy. He's got Rites of War and Soul Warden. This guy could definitely run Armor Indomitus. That would be cool. But he's also got a priest who is the chief apothecary with Icon of the Angel, Incursors, Infiltrators. It was about this time last year, but I remember a lot of 30 times Lightning Claw plus Storm Shield Vanguard Vets, sometimes hammers on the Sergeant, but no hammers on the basic mooks. Wasn't it like 12 points per model back then? The hammers were 12 points per model back then, but I think the squad, I feel like the squad was 140 points, whereas now I think they're 155. So that squad's gone up 10%. The Lightning Claw Storm Shield Vanguard veterans. I don't know if they were good enough to go up 10%. I mean, as much as I've just complained about Sangre Guard, I'm going to run... I think the killing power of Sangre Guard is better than Lightning Claw Van Vets. And the thing about, like, 2-wound Marines with Storm Shields... It's, yeah, I mean, I guess you could say that about anything, but you're just swinging on the armor save, I guess. Alright, aggressors. I was going to say it's 5 aggressors, okay, with the Bolt Storms. It's 5 Blade Guard. It's Death Company with Infernal Pistol, Power Sword, and then 4 hammers. It's a Judiciar with a Selfless Valor. It's 5 Sangre Guard with 3 Infernal Pistols, some swords and axes. I'd probably just make this 5 Infernal Pistols. If you start going half Infernal Pistols, I'd just go all Infernal Pistols. We got Terminator squads with all hammers, and again, I think a couple Lightning Claws in there would be good. We do have a Lightning Claw Storm Shield Vanguard Veteran squad, so it is 155 points. We do have a large squad of Inceptors. I guess that's 5 Inceptors, and we do have an Impulsor for the Blade Guard veterans. Okay, I mean, we're seeing some variation in Blood Angels now. So we're still seeing every list includes some Death Company with hammers. Sangre Guard in a 5 with Infernal Pistols feels good to me. I feel like if you manage to jump on a target, they don't have an invulnerable save, 5 Infernal Pistols, and then carve them up, that will be very good. The Blade Guard and the Impulsor just seems to be becoming more and more common. You're going to want something with Ablative Wounds to sit on a midfield objective early in the game, potentially. The Blade Guard can obviously do that. Terminators with Assault Hammers are also seeming really common. We're not seeing many people take Terminators with guns, which I think is an okay choice as well, but we're seeing a lot of people go on those Storm Shield Terminators. I'm not seeing too many people take Aggressors, but here's a lot of bolter fire from these aggressors, right? Not like average 9 shots per aggressor, so you got 45 strength 4 bolter shots coming out, so it's decent amount of bolter fire. Again, they could be reserved. Infiltrators, I think, are better than Incursors, but Incursors with the mines are cool enough. Rites of War Chapter Master, Soul Warden Chapter Master, Icon of Angel Priest, Inceptors. We're seeing these as well. I don't run Inceptors. I don't like the plasmas on them, but I mean, you could probably swap them out for 3 Ball Predators. It would be about the same, I guess. What would people prefer? 3 Ball Predators or 5 Inceptors? That's a good question. Let's see. What's better? 3 times Ball Predators, 5 times Plasma Inceptors. Let's see what people think. I think it'll be skewed because some people hate plasmas, right? Judas CR for Fight Last. He's got no whirlwind, so Judas CR for Fight Last seems cool. It's a very infantry heavy list, I guess, right? So it's going to give up a lot of points for no prisoners, but maybe you don't have to worry about that. Hi, Doughty Wizard. Good evening. Sangry Guard do generally outkill Lightning Claw Van Vets. Yeah, so it's like people aren't rating the survivability of the Van Vets high enough to take them over Sangry Guard or Death Company. And I think that's why I think they're overcosted. Maybe like they're more Lightning Claw Storm Shield Van Vet is more expensive than a Sangry Guard, and I think on paper, I mean, if you get to Assault Doctrine, the Sangry Guard have 5 2-damage weapons, the Lightning Claw has 5 1-damage attacks. You know, you're talking that the Sangry Guard can do double their damage, and then they could also have an Infernal Pistol as well. They both have a 2-up save. I guess it. I think that the next list I write for Blood Angels, probably without Guilliman in it, is probably going to include the Psyker with Null Zone and Psychic Fortress. It's either that or it's going to include that Chaplain with Vox to Spiritum that I talked about the other night. The -1 to hit on Sangry Guard is huge. I don't think it is really. Like, if you think of 40k is like, there's a lot more ways for people to reroll hits than there is for them to reroll wounds, right? Like, that just generally feels how it is. So, the -1 to hit in Sangard and melee against armies that maybe aren't very good in melee, or vehicles or stuff that are profiled, it is good. But there's a lot of melee armies that have a lot of ways to reroll hits, and if your enemy ever has reroll hits, then I think the -1 on Sangry Guard is kind of bad. That's why I was thinking they have Artificer Armor. Maybe they could have a 5-up invuln that you would get with Artificer Armor. I guess the other thing to say was, like, Dante's got a -1 to hit. And again, I think that the -1 to hit on Dante, like, I think it would just be better if he had +1 toughness. Because the -1 to hit it'll help you now and again, but like not many things are re-rolling wounds, so +1 toughness would probably just be better in the long run. It doesn't seem like many Primaris characters are coming back with toughness 5 except Mephiston, and then Mephiston has other problems like no invulnerable save, no +1 to cast. So it's like Games Workshop can't decide what they're doing there. Make the Sangry Guard special Artificer Armor mean something. Yeah, I mean, it's a weird one. In some situations, -1 to hit is huge. But I feel like there's plenty of situations where it makes no difference. And it's very hard to, like, play a unit where, like, hey, against some units or enemies, this -1 to hit is really important, and then against others it's like it does nothing. So it's a tricky one. It's a tricky one. Plus, like, I think even though I'm like constantly playing Blood Angels all the time, there's definitely times where the enemies just picked up their dice and thrown them, like when they're attacking the Sangry Guard, and I haven't been super quick enough to say, oh, they're -1 to hit, and it's caused problems. It would be much simpler if the rules. I don't know. I mean, it happens all the time, and I feel like I've run Sangry Guard for a long time. I mean, I should tell my opponent. Is maybe just fatigue of having to tell every opponent, hey, they're -1 to hit. But yeah, sometimes it happens as well. And yeah, if they're hitting you with Thunderhammers and all only -1 to hit, then it does nothing, right? Or Orc Claws, etc., etc. Yes. So overall, this list seems decent. I guess it's got the 3 fast units and the 3 slow units, which is what I've been saying that we would see. 1, 2, 3. I guess the community seems to think 3 Ball Predators are a lot better than Inceptors. Interesting. Okay. I mean, 3 Ball Predators do cost 30 more points than 5 Inceptors. Would it have been different if it was 6 Inceptors? Would anyone have changed their vote? I'm going to probably run 2 Ball Predators in my next event. I mean, I'm actually kind of tempted to just buy a third one. But then that's doing what I'm telling you not to do. I'm saying don't rush out and buy stuff this edition or this season, because nothing... If you buy a Ball Predator right now, you'll be able to run it for 3 months, and then they'll change everything and it'll be useless. Take the Selfless Healer off, and then boom, yours is 30 points. It's a good point, Rob. Alright, overall, PJ, this is a decent list, I think. Some people enjoy playing Inceptors. I hate the fact you have to sort of slow roll them one at a time, and then you have to, if you ever overkill a unit, you still have to roll the shots and stuff. I just think they're a pain in the arse to play or whatever. Rezgol says they're inefficient. They're also swingy, right, Rez? Because any unit that has, what is it, 2d3 shots, really? I never seem to roll high for a number of shots, so I usually end up getting like 8 shots from a squad that could potentially have 12, I think would be. No. It's 2d3? So the squad could have like 18 shots. I usually end up rolling some shit like 8 and just thinking like, wow, that's terrible, this is not good at all. I've been enjoying the Ball Predators though. Alright, so Michael has a new list. I think it's time to bring back Vanguard Veteran spam. A lot of us were running them pre-Armor of Contempt, so now I've gone for 3 units of 10 Vanguard Veterans. Okay, so Michael maybe knows something that we don't know. Are suppressors bad? I really think that the problem with suppressors is you want to move them, and when you move them, they then become -1 to hit, and they don't hit very often. I guess if you can deploy them that you don't need to move them, it'll be okay. He's going to have 6 units of 5 Vanguard Veterans. He's going to have 5 times Thunderhammer Storm Shields, and he's going to have 5 Lightning Claws. Okay, that's crazy. He's going to do Oath of Moment, he's going to do Shot Tactics, or Relentless Assault, or Behind Enemy Lines. Shot Tactics, Relentless, and Behind Enemy Lines are all in the same category, so it's Oath plus 1 of those 3, and then I guess maybe he's going to take Banners or something else beyond that. Alright, he's taking a Captain on a Bike with Gift of Foresight, Rights of War, and Armor and Dominus, right? So a very survivable captain. The only way you could make him more survivable is like if you took Adamantium Mantle and gave up Rights of War, but I think he's great with Rights of War. He's taken a Librarian with Unleash Rage, Shield of Sanguinius, and Wings. He's also made him the Chief Librarian, and he's given him Psychic Mastery, so he's more reliable at casting, which is what Mephisto needs so badly, is Psychic Mastery. He's also taken the Priest with Selfless Healer. So that's a lot. That's a big commitment on characters, okay? He's got 1 squad of Infiltrators with Helix Gauntlets, and I like that, but I think 2 squads of Infiltrators right now is totally fine. I think I prefer 2 squads of Infiltrators because it shores up your screening, and everybody's putting a lot of stuff in Deep Strike, and if the enemy knows you've only got 1 squad of Infiltrators, maybe they can focus your squad of Infiltrators down, and then you're in tough position, right? Because then you've lost your troop potential, your sticky objective potential, your action monkey. So I like 2 squads of Infiltrators. If I'm going heavy into Vanguard Veterans, you want 10-man unit with dual Lightning Claws to make charges into enemy 10-man Terminator blocks. I guess 10-man with Lightning Claws though aren't survivable. I guess the point is to give like double Lightning Claw Vangvets are even less survivable than Sangre Guard and Death Company. And I think we already said Death Company and Sangre Guard outkill Vanguard Veterans. So at that point, you're kind of damned if you do, damned if you don't. Highland Phoenix. I think you want Lightning Claw Storm Shields. Not many DTM saying not many people ran Hammer Van Vets. They were too expensive, I think, DTM, because they were if Lightning Claw ones were 28 points per model, that was when Lightning Claws were 3 points per claw. Then a Hammer Vanguard Veteran would have been like 37 points per model. And they are -1 to hit, and they don't have a lot of attacks. So as they're only 1 point less than a Death Company model. And they got like 1 less attack. So I don't know. I definitely ran Thunderhammer Vanguard Veterans with Storm Shields, but I never ran like a 5-man squad of it. It was more like the Sergeant had the Thunderhammer. maybe I had like a couple of times I ran like 3, but it would be more like 3 with Thunderhammers and then 7 with Lightning Claws. Lightning Claws were definitely the go-to build for a long time, and it wasn't just Blood Angels that were doing Lightning Claws. It was White Scars as well, right? Like I think I played a tournament against a guy who had 30 White Scar Van Vets, all with Lightning Claws and Storm, so they could all advance and charge. And that was fucking crazy. That guy is actually in Team Scotland. Like, he was way up high on the rankings. Dual Lightning Claws for the style points. I mean, Dual Lightning Claws feels like it would have been viable with Armor of Contempt. I don't like it right now. Would a Massed Assault Intercessor list work? Asked Rob. I don't think so, Rob, because unless you're putting them in reserve, and the thing about putting units in reserve is 8-inch charges are not reliable, or 9-inch charges with +1 are generally not reliable. So if you're doing units in reserve, you have to be prepared for them to fail their charge and then just get shot off the board, like what happened with my Terminators this week. Do you think 7 Sanguinary Guard squad is still the way to go? I'm running 5, Felix. I think we've had a couple of people win events with 7, but I don't know what their meta's like. I feel like with 5, I feel like they just die so quickly now. In the meta that I'm playing in, there's way too much AP -4. So Sanguinary Guard just cannot survive AP -4 meta. In the last event I went to, it was horrific, and that was with Armor of Contempt. So I think without Armor of Contempt, there's no way I can run. Like, I was running... I'm trying to think my last event. I think I ran... I think I ran 3 squads of Death Company and 2 squads of Sanguinary Guard, and I think both Sanguinary Guard were 7s. But now I'm just running 5 with all Infernal Pistols, because I guess needs must, I guess. How do you get the Lightning Claws that are like on the arm? I don't know how to say. Night Lords have them. I guess you buy boxes of models that maybe you don't have. I take Infernal Pistols on the Thunderhammer Vanguard Vets. Just take Lightning Claw shield dudes off first. I mean, Infernal Pistol is free Highland Phoenix now, right? So how much does a Vanguard veteran with a Thunderhammer cost? I mean, maybe that's something. Maybe Highland Phoenix has figured it out. Thunderhammer's 10, a jump pack is 3, so that's 13. So 33. So yeah, I mean, I guess if you could run like 3 Lightning Claw Storm Shields and 2 Thunderhammer Infernal Pistols. I don't have any of those made, and I need to start ripping off arms and stuff, and I'm not willing to do it for a single season. But yeah, maybe I could run. Maybe that sounds attractive, actually. You're just basically paying 2 extra points for the Thunderhammer, and you're giving up a bit of survivability, but like throwing a little bit of like, hey, fuck it, we've just got 2 Infernal Pistols in here, so if you kill 3 of my guys that I'm saving on Storm Shields, then I'll shoot you in combat with Infernal Pistols. Anyway, this list. He's got 10 Lightning Claw Storm Shields. He's got 10 5 Lightning Claw, 5 Thunderhammer Storm Shields. I mean, I feel like if you're doing 10, you probably can definitely get away with like 8 Storm Shields in the squad. Maybe even 6, right? Like, if you got most Storm Shields, you're probably good. He's got another 10, 5 Thunderhammers, 5 Lightning Claw Storm Shields, and then he's got a squad of Heavy Melta Rifle Eradicators and the Whirlwind. Interesting choice, Heavy Melta Rifle Eradicators, because I don't like them for Blood Angels. They're slow, they can't advance and fire, and they've got to all shoot at the same target. And also, you get a free multi-melta here as well, so you could easily add a multi-melta for free. So you could probably do that as well. I was going to say, if you dropped like 4 Storm Shields from each squad, that's 60 points. It's a lot. If all 4 of those guys had Infernal Pistols, is there a way you could get the second infiltrator squad there? It might actually be pretty valuable. I guess you could drop one Thunderhammer here. You've got a lot. You know, like I don't like running just one troop choice at the moment. Um, I also just probably see Vanguard veterans as like, yes, you have more survivability, right? Like we can agree that, but you still have a giant weakness, and that your weakness is mortal wounds, right? You're going to be very vulnerable to mortal wounds. Yeah, you've got Soul Warden, I guess. You did Soul Warden, no? Alright, you've got a Selfless Healer, I guess. I don't know. I can't decide on Vanguard veterans. I mean, if you're reserving the heavy melter rifles, you're getting 8 shots hitting on 4s. If you're just reserving like the normal ones, you would get 8 shots hitting on 3s. You're bringing them in a half range anyway. So at least then the following turn you can move and advance and shoot. I don't know. I guess heavy melter rifles in reserve is fine, I guess. A 10-man unit, I take the sergeant and another dude with Thunderhammer, Infernal Pistols, Rest Lightning Claws, so you can combat squad them hard hitting. I also think if you're going to run this many Vanguard veterans, you're going to want Quake Bolts, because their Thunderhammers aren't very effective. Like, they only hit on 4s. You're only going to be able to give like one squad Chapter Master rerolls, right? And you've got 4 Thunderhammer fast-moving squads. I think Quake Bolts would give a lot of value here. And I don't know. I still don't think Vanguard veterans standing on an objective out in the open, if that's what the map looks like. There's objectives in the open that you have to stand on. 2 wound toughness 4 Marines don't do that very well at the moment. The meta should look a little less mortal woundy than it was a few weeks ago. Less demons souping, less Thousand Suns, less Zonathropes. I mean, yeah, I guess there is less mortal than in the meta right now. I don't know, maybe I'll try Vanguard veterans at some point. I've got 20 of them, and I've got a bunch of different weapon options. I've got a couple of different sergeants. Like, I actually made a sergeant with an Infernal Pistol and a Relic Blade, and I made a sergeant with a shield and a Relic Blade. If I'm sure on Vanguard veterans, go for a Blade Guard veterans and an Impulsor. I mean, Blade Guard veterans are a lot more points, right? But they do have 50% more wounds. So and they do have a 2 damage sword. So like if Blade Guard veterans, 6 attacks on the sergeant, 5 on the other is like 26 times 2. So theoretically, the maximum amount of damage a squad of Blade Guard veterans can do is 52 damage. Squad of Lightning Claw Vanguard veterans. Let's just take as many as we can get for the same points. Blade Guard is 175 plus 100 for the Impulsor, right? So divide that by 31. So you get 8.8 Vanguard veterans. So let's, for argument's sake, just say it's 9. 9 times, how many attacks would they get? They'd get 2, 3, 4, 5. Because it would be 2 plus 2 for charging plus 1. So it would be 9 times 5 plus 1. So, like, equivalent points-wise, 9 Vanguard veterans with Lightning Claw Storm Shields actually have less damage potential than 5 Blade Guard veterans. So then I guess it's a case of, like, yes, Vanguard veterans move faster. I guess you'd have... What would you have? 9 times 2? You'd have 18 wounds. So you'd have 18 wounds on that squad of Van Vets, whereas the Blade Guard, you would have 15 wounds, plus then you would have 11 wounds on the Impulsor. So, like, the Blade Guard can do more damage. They have a lot more wounds. They obviously have higher toughness, I guess, on the Impulsor. They can transhuman. And then, yes, they're much slower. But if there's ever a turn that you have to advance the Blade Guard, right? Like, advance them across the board, they still move pretty fast, right? I don't see Blade Guard as a slow unit, per se. Especially if in turn one you move your impulsor 14 inches forward, then you're kind of already halfway across the board at that point, right? Sometimes you even want to advance your impulsor turn one, right? So you can get like 20 inches across the board. Yeah, you could put a Judiciar in there as well, I suppose. I haven't decided yet if I'm using a Judiciar or I've been running the Firstborn Apothecary. Not the Firstborn, sorry, the Primaris Apothecary with my Blade Guard. Primaris Apothecary. Where the hell is he? Is he not? Oh yeah, he's an elite choice. Sorry, I'm being an idiot. I was thinking he's a HQ. It's because of Sanguinary Priest is a HQ. Apothecary, Primaris Apothecary. Is he the same points as a Blade as the Judiciar, or is the Judiciar actually 5 points cheaper? No, he's 5 points more. Balls. So if I wanted to include the Judiciar, I'd need to find 5 points in my list. Okay, that might be tricky. You take 5 Blade Guard veterans to avoid blast. That's very true. I guess you get more value as well if you resurrect the Blade Guard veterans with the Apothecary, because you're getting more per se for the resurrection, and you can also use the resurrection to lower charge distances, which is kind of huge. Anytime you can resurrect a Blade Guard, be it that Blade Guards are on like, well, it'll say here, right? Blade Guards are on, I think they're on 40mm bases. Yeah, so what's 40mm in inches? It's probably like 1.7. Alright, so 1.5. So anytime you resurrect a Blade Guard, you reduce any potential charge distance by 3.57 inches. So assuming you resurrect them at the front of the unit to lower your charge distance, right? But yeah, I mean, the Judiciar obviously does a shitload more damage than the Apothecary. The Apothecary does no damage. The Judiciar has a really cool sword that does mortals, and he gets like 5 attacks when he charges, and their strength 7. So typically, Blood Angels, you're wounding on 2s ish. And you got to fight last. Maybe I need to just give up the Apothecary, run the Judiciar with Rites of War, so that the Blade Guards still have the I like the idea of 6 Blade Guard veterans because you can split them 2 3s. 2 3s inside the Impulsor. The Impulsor carries 6, right? Yeah, of course it does, because we already put a character in there. Interesting. That's actually the most interesting. That's maybe even more interesting than. Then you could. They haven't FAQ'd Voidsman yet, right? DTM, you would know this because you know every rule ever. We still can't run Voidsman, is that correct? Like, there's no way to include Voidsman in Arcs of Omen detachment at the moment, is that right? Jim says, I played against World Eaters yesterday, and the 8-bound bonus damage, speed, and durability is outrageous. One model killed a 5-man aggressor with no effort. Really? I heard things about the 8-bound. I was watching Tabletop Titans battle report last night. Are 8-bound here on... No, they're not. Am I spelling it right? 8-bound? No, maybe the rules aren't here on Battlescribe yet, or Wikipedia, whatever. Can you bring back a model closer to reduce charge distance? Yeah, you just have to resurrect them within coherency, right? 100%. You can put the model down anywhere you want as long as it's within 2 inches of another model and it's coherent, James. It's much easier to do with resurrection protocols. They're allowed to do that 100% for Necrons, unless they've changed it. I can't imagine they've changed it. I've seen people use the resurrection protocols to daisy chain models halfway across the board onto an objective and win games doing that. A Fox says, I've got 3 5-man death companies. Should I go for 4 Thunderhammers and 2 squad and 1 with Infernal Pistols Power Sword, or 1 of each of the 2 and 1 with powerful. I think you want, like, I'm running 2 Death Company. I think the 2 squads that I'm running, you've got 4 Thunderhammers in each, and then like 1 guy with an Infernal Pistol. That's what I It was FAQ to reduce the charge distance. I mean, maybe it was for oh, maybe they changed it for Resurrection Protocols. For a regular Space Marine, there's no limitation as far as I know on reviving a model. It just says the stratagem is just combat revival. Use a stratagem in any movement phase. Select the Blood Angel's Apothecary. Select an infantry or biker that is not at starting strength within 3 inches. One of the selected units destroyed model is returned with full health remaining. You just put it wherever the fuck you want, as long as it's in coherency. Someone said to me that a neat trick, and I don't know how neat a trick this is that they start their Terminators on the board in turn 1 now with their Teleport Homer, and they hope that the enemy kills one of their Terminators. So when they deep strike them back in 9 inches away, they deep strike them in next to the Apothecary. The Apothecary revives the Terminator forward, and because that lowers the charge distance by like 3.5 inches, they already get +1 to their charge. So their roll of 8 now becomes a 5, right? Because they've revived them, and that's fine, right? So I was like, it's pretty risky just putting your Terminators on the board and hoping that they just kill one model, so when you arrive from Deep Strike, you can then set up an enemy model with the revive closer to the enemy. It feels pretty risky, but I guess you could do it. The revive happens after they've arrived from Strategic Reserve, as far as I know, John. So unless there's a overriding rule, I don't think there's anything that says you can't do that. But maybe it's FAQ'd for like Necrons. It definitely has never been FAQ'd for Marines. I did actually forget that the Apothecary had that pistol, because no one ever has a Primaris Apothecary. He does have a minus. I fell him out of combat this week against Iron Hands. Go figure, Highland Phoenix. Forgetting that he had a pistol that's -4, 2 damage. I could have killed that last Devastator. But I needed him out of combat anyway because he was a Rites of War character. But yeah, no one ever runs this character. I mean, I'm running him because I've got some mad list going on at the moment. Alright, so yeah, I'm not sure. I can't sway either way on Vanguard veterans. The general community feel is that Sanguinary Guard and Death Company are better, but who's to know? Until I start running Vanguard veterans and we start seeing some people win events, maybe with Vanguard veterans and Lightning Claws. We'll see how there is. Is there a way to sacrifice the Terminator? Put them out of unit coherency somehow without cheating? Jeez, Crozier, I never even thought about that. Could you do that without cheating? I mean, that's getting pretty dodge, right? I mean, it does say if you end a movement phase out of coherency, the model's dead. I mean that's borderline dodgy, but I was gonna say that's like in the main rules. I don't know if you can do that. I've never. Coherency, unit coherency, unit. A unit has more than one model must be set up to finish any sort of move as a single group. While a unit has 6 or more models, you know what? You must be all models within 2 inches horizontally. This is called blah blah blah. Sometimes there is insufficient room to set up all models from a unit, or it will not be possible to set up all the models in unit coherency. When this is the case, any models that cannot be set up are considered to be destroyed. Yeah, I mean that. I don't know if I would let you away with that. That seems shady as all hell. But I mean, because you'd have to like really obviously put him out of coherency, so your opponent's like he's out of coherency. he's dead. I don't think you could do that. It sounds too gamey. So what you have to do is you have to set up 4 of the Terminators in cover and 1 of them out of cover and hope that they just kill the 1 out of cover, which is super fucking risky because... Yeah, I don't know. I think maybe the person that said it didn't realise that like all the other weapons will still hit the models in cover, but then you're saying that, you know, Terminators with Storm Shields in cover, you hit them at -2, they're still saving on 2s, right? Like, they're pretty fucking survivable. Because they're on a 2-up save, Storm Shield gives them +1, cover gives them +1. So even at -3, they're still saving on 3-ups. So maybe if you had 1 Lightning Claw 1, you start out of cover and you let them kill it, and then you just take all the 2-up saves, hopefully for days, inside cover. I think a better way to do it would just be to get... I think a better way to do that strat is to just get pluses to your charging from Canticle of Hate or some other way. But yeah, if you ever get like a Sangre Guard unit that was not at max strength in combat, you could definitely play Wings of Fire on them with the intention of bringing 1 back alive to lower the charge distance in a previous turn, right? Or in a future turn, sorry. Alright, Freddy's list. He's got Chaplain with Litany of Faith and Canticle of Hate. He's a Master. He's got the Icon. He's just got the Icon. So I guess he'll be doing Canticle of Hate, and you'll be paying the 1 2 CP to autocast it on Deep Strike probably. He's got Dante as the Warlord, so +1 CP. He's got the Sangre Priest, Selfless Healer, and he also has... Yeah, spent 1 CP on the Selfless Healer. Alright, double Infiltrator Squad, which is good, which is fine. So when you revive, you can't be closer than 9 inches. Pretty sure there's a real rule that says when a unit from reinforcements can never be closer than 9 inches with a specific rule that overrides. If there is, John, I don't know about it. I have never seen that rule. And I've seen a lot of people Well, see, but... I guess most of the time, for me personally, most of the time that doesn't matter, right? Because I'm starting my units from reserve in at full health. My thought is more about like Blade Guard, right? Blade Guard only moves 6, so they're obviously a lot slower than Van Vets. But if you've lost one, it's very easy to revive one and lower any charge distance they might have by 3 inches. They updated the validity document, so Psychic Awakening. I know they updated the validity documents, so Psychic Awakening, Agent of the Imperium document is valid, but as far as I'm aware, like the ruling, maybe Wapedia's updated it, but like if you go and search like Voidsman, for example, thank you so much for subscribing, I do appreciate it. John Ball, I appreciate that. Voidsman. If you look at what Voidsman says, like their Agents of the Imperium text, it says here, if your army is battle-forged, you can include Agents of the Imperium within a patrol, battalion, or brigade, right? Like, in Arcs of Omen, we aren't making any of those detachments. We're making an Arcs of Omen detachment. So it's not a patrol, it's not a battalion, it's not a brigade. So although they've said their rules are legal, I don't see any way you can include them in a Blood Angels list as it stands. Okay, we've got a large death company. I don't like large death companies because, well, 1, their leadership sucks. I guess it's not as bad with a chaplain. But also 2, technically I think the best way of using Death Company is Forlorn Fury. And it costs 2 CP to Forlorn Fury Death Company. 2, 4, 6, 8. It's a 10-man. So I don't love this. I think it's fine. Speaking of tabletop tactics last night, actually, anyone that watched that game, the Blood Angels player actually played Refusal to Die, paid the CP for Refusal to Die, and all his Death Company still died. So I've been saying for ages, Refusal to Die is like the worst stratagem ever, and it felt like a real vindication moment. If you've ever seen Brooklyn Nine-Nine, you know when Captain Holt's like, vindication! That's what it felt like when I watched that stream last night. I was like, oh, a Blood Angels player plays that stratagem and it does nothing to help us. That's how it feels every time I use it. You would need to put them in an agent's allied patrol, so you would need an agent's HQ unit. So you could do it if you had an agent HQ unit. Okay, well, I mean, I don't have an agent's HQ unit. Would an Inquisitor be an agent's HQ unit? In rare rules for reposition, there is no mention of 9-inch distances to be kept. Here's the thing, John. Sometimes they put these rules in like an edition, and then you get to a new edition, and the rule it can be like a core rule or a rare rule that you feel is important, and it's just gone. So there are many worse strats than Refusal to Die. Well, trust me, Refusal to Die is one of the worst ones. We have a Sanguinary Priest with the Wrath of Baal. We have 2 5-man Infernal Pistols, heavy Sanguinary Guard squads. We've got a Terminator squad with Thunderhammers. We've got 3 assault squads, and these guys, I guess, are kitted out now a bit. Double Melt-A-Gun in each. Infernal Pistol, Thunderhammer, Combat Shield in each. It's a bit weird how the assault squad sergeant can take the Combat Shield, Infernal Pistol, and the Thunderhammer. For some reason, he's just like, fuck it, give me all the weapons and the shield, because I am an assault squad sergeant, and my rules were written in 1980 or something. And then we got 2 guys with chainswords, fine. We got 2 squads of Last Fusel Eliminators. I think these guys are worse now with the loss of Armor of Contempt, but I've always found Eliminators hard to play. I always feel like you need 2 squads of them to do stuff, and half the time they just sort of don't perform. And then you've got the Whirlwind. This list is not for tournaments. I'm not interested in meta chasing. Rather a strong casual list that is BA army to the core. Learn lots from you. Why I have 2 Sanguinary Guard and 5-mans. All right. We got 1 durable unit in the Terminators, but we do have double infiltrators, so we're screening well. I hate the 10-man Death Company, just to be frank. I tried running a 10-man Death Company a couple of times myself, Freddy. I think you're better running 2 5s. I guess you do have elite slots, right? Like, you do have a spare elite slot here. You've got 6 elites. Actually, you've got more elite slots now because of the Sangration. I'd split this into a 5. 5 and 5. I'd make 1 as killy as you possibly can, and the other less killy, and probably Forlorn Fury, the most killy one for 1 CP. I think that you've got a lot of bodies, which I like the 3 assault squads. Eliminators, let me know how you get on. I kept trying to run these guys, I've tried to run these guys all the time for a year. I always feel like they underperform for me. The Whirlwind with the Fight Last is good. Your HQs are all fine. I like the Wrath of Baal. I feel like I would like Rites of War in this list, because I think Rites of War is really good. You do have a Sanguinary Ancient who can... I was going to say, have you already used Hero of the Chapter twice? No. You've used Icon of the Angel, and you've Chiefs of Apostasy. I would put Rites of War on the Sanguinary Ancient. I think adding OBSEC is really good, especially with all the jump units. You might struggle a little bit with if you come up to an army where everything's -4, and the only unit you've got in your whole list is with invulnerable saves against is the Terminators, then you're going to struggle. And that's kind of why Voidsman can be added if you add a patrol, says Steve West. Yeah, but what do I need to add to that patrol, Steve? What do I need a HQ in that patrol? I just want to spend 40 points and add a squad of Voidsmen. I don't want to have to take a HQ. PM, thanks so much for hanging out, dude. We have 60 people watching now. How many likes we got in this video? 46. So yeah, a lot of people did hit the like button last time I asked. Please, good night. Thanks for hanging out. You can take the Voidsmen as their own auxiliary support detachment. How many CP is that going to cost me? Because I just want to include a 40-point squad of Voidsmen for no CP or anything. I think they're a really good unit, and it just, because you can reserve them for free, it just totally opens up Nachman data and their troops as well. So they're on tiny little bases. The Voidsmen, they're on 28s, maybe 25s. 25s, they're on the tiny little bases. And because they're troops, then they can't fail. The 5 of them can't fail Nachman data, or whatever it's called, retrieve battlefield data now. And I mean, once they've done battlefield data, they're actually okay. I mean, you've got like 8 shots from rapid fire las cannons, and you've got 4 shots from a rotor cannon. I actually killed the Dark Angel's bike in my game against Dark Angels with the Voidsman. He was pretty annoyed that like I killed one of his bikes with. I think I actually only wounded it with 6s on the las guns as well, because the bike would be T5 and the las guns are strength 3, right? Yeah, so this list will feel Blood Angels, 100% Freddy. This list will... 6 months ago, this list would have been fine. It would probably be pretty good. I guess all your free war gear option choices look pretty good. I definitely split the Death Company up because I hate spending 2 CP on Forlorn Fury, and 1 CP spend on Forlorn Fury is great. But I guess if you come up against an army that's like their whole... Like, I've played a bunch of Sisters lists where the whole list is just minus 4 EP. I've played Necrons where it's the same, like, it's just constantly like minus 3s and minus 4s. I've played Iron Hands in Dark Angels now, where it's all minus 4s, or even minus 5s. If you come up against a list like that, you're kind of... I don't want to say you're screwed. You're the way I look at it is you're 100% terrain dependent at that point. So you have to decide on like... and I actually did make and film that video about the game I played against Tau recently. I was thinking I might release it this week. Hadn't decided when I was releasing it, but I filmed it and I edited it. It's all uploaded. I just haven't decided when I'm running it, releasing it. I played a game against Tau where there was just no cover on the map, basically, or there was no cover on 3 of the objectives, and it's a 5 objective map. So I have to try and hold stuff in no man's land with no cover. And if you're running a list like that with, I guess, like 1 unit of invulnerable saves, you'd be fucked. It looks like you need a 60-point HQ to date the Voidsman. Yeah, so I need an Inquisitor. I mean, that's okay, I guess. I mean, Inquisitor might be good. I'll have to have a think. But yeah, if you're confident on the terrain in the places that you play, that there's always plenty of terrain, and yeah, I mean, I filmed a video on the game that I had to play Tau on. And I think on the thumbnail, you know, I was thinking I need to maybe I redo this. I was thinking about the thumbnail for a while. Yeah, no. I made just like a standard thumbnail, like the sort of thumbnails that I make, which is like this. But I was thinking like it would get more clicks if I just redid it and just was like the worst fucking game of my life. I hate Abandoned Sanctuaries. So I might redo it. Yeah, do you know what? I thought about it. I think I'll redo it. I mean, melee versus shooting matchups are kind of always terrain dependent. Yeah, they are. But, like, I guess my point is, right, like, you know, and people might say, like, well, Blood Angels just won LVO, so they should be fine. I was like, yeah, but, like, something like LVO in those top tables, you could rely on there being very good terrain, whereas like if you just go down your local gaming store to a small event, the terrain might be nothing. Like the game I played Tau on, I think there was probably like 12 pieces of terrain on the board, but it just felt like there was no terrain on the board, right? So yeah, what's next? Thomas. All right, I think this is going to be our last list for tonight, guys. I think I'm doing 6 army lists every week now. I think this is number 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Yeah, so I'm doing about 6 every week at the moment. There is quite a big queue, so if anyone's submitted army lists, I think I've got 6 for next week. I've got 6 for the week after. I think there's already 2 people submitted the week after that. So there's honestly more lists than I thought there would be. And I guess the cool thing is, like, at least now the lists are fresh and we're having healthy debate. Because it feels like if we go back 3 months, it was just like every list: 3 Sangre Guard, three Death Company, in some sort of small change of that, and I have to try and talk about. There's nothing to say. It was like, this is the best list. Yes, let's move on. Did I see Harpster's game against the Tau? There was so much terrain on the board, the players concluded the game was a foregone conclusion in Blood Angel's favour. It can swing the other way. I saw his game against Harlequins, and every objective, right, had like an obscuring piece of terrain on it, and I was like, oh my god, right? Like if I ever go to a tournament and I get to play on a board like that where all my units can sit in terrain and nothing can see me, and I can just jump out and kill units at will, that's the dream. Like, that does not happen at the events that I go to. I mean, the events here in Scotland are like so much smaller in caliber. But yeah, trust me, that doesn't happen. Like, you've seen some of the boards I've played on, right? Go to some WC terrain tournaments. I played WTC this week against Andrew, and he was complaining that there was too much terrain on the board for his Iron Hands. I did beat Iron Hands, but he was like, "You picked WTC terrain because there's too much terrain on the board." So it's funny. I guess here in Scotland, the terrain is not on the level of some of those tournaments, right? It's just not. I prefer symmetrical terrain, right? Because I don't like beating players with player, like, if it's player placed terrain, I can place the terrain and I can win the game before the game even starts, right? So I don't necessarily like that, but I also I don't like going to events where it's like, hey, you're just going to play Tau and there's 6 pieces of terrain on the board, right? I was gonna say, it just is what it is. I'm trying to think if I was gonna say, I'm trying to think if I have a picture of one of the events where I had to play on, like, no, like, I had to play Tau on a table that it had terrain on it, right? Like, I always say, like, oh, it had no terrain on it. It did have terrain on the table. There, you never play a game, I guess. It would take me forever to find it, I'm sure. I make too many videos, I guess. Oh, it might be this one, actually. Yeah, I think it might actually be this video.
What's up?
Was it this one? Oh, I think it didn't go in. Oh, the game against Tyranids, game against Death Guard. No, maybe it's the second part of this one. No, but I remember playing this terrain table as well and thinking, like, look, if you're playing against a shooting army like this, it's like your only option is to jump here, and then from here, where do you go, right? Because you can't jump into this one, because he's going to blow you up with the multi-meltas and redemptors and whatever. So from here, your only option really is to jump to here and maybe advance over onto. It's quite a long jump to jump all the way over there and advance and get in that cover. So anything you put over here, and in this case it was like assault intercessors, they're fucking dead. Yeah, I guess you could sit behind this one, and you can sit behind this one. But then how do you put any pressure on here in the middle? Or how do you put any pressure on these two? I think on this one, the board, the deployment was like, it was that corner to that corner. So yeah, it really, some of these events, some of these units, it really just depends on the terrain. That board is just a kill box. Yeah, I mean, that's why I'm saying 3 fast moving units, 3 durable units, and that's why I'm rating them Pulsar Res, because in the events that I go to, that's common, man. There'd be like, well, look, I can give you a preview, actually. Can I give you a preview? I think I can, right? Like, if I go to my YouTube channel, 1 second. Because I think even though I've not released the video, if I go into my tactics playlist and go to the bottom, it's probably there. Yeah, yeah. So like this video is not released yet. So if you guys went into the tactics playlist on my channel, you wouldn't see it, but I'll see it, right? Because it's not released yet. If I click this video, special preview of an unreleased video, right? Here's the game that I played against Tau, right? And here's 3 objectives in the middle of the map. This is Abandoned Sanctuary, so my whole army starts behind this line, and I went first, so I can't get any pre-game move. His whole army is behind that line. So what's my fucking options? Like, I can jump 1 unit or maybe 2 units into here, but if I put more than 1 or 2 units in there, he's probably going to draw line of sight on them from the sides. So now I've got 3 objectives, 1, 2, 3 across the middle. Anything that I put on them, you think, cool, I'm going to be able to be -1 to hit. Well, that's not going to matter, because he had fucking marker lights and all sorts. So every unit that was in the middle was getting hit with like 5 marker lights. So this was like the worst game of my life. And like if you actually add up the pieces of terrain, right? You've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. You've got 8 big obscuring pieces of terrain, and you've got 3 forests. So you think 11 pieces of terrain, that's decent. Well, yeah, maybe if the objectives, maybe if one of the objectives was here, or maybe one of the objectives was here, but when they're all in the middle like this and it's abandoned sanctuaries and you go first, I just need, like, this game's going so badly that my fucking whirlwind has come out and tapped this objective as well, because I need to hold, because anytime I put 1 unit on the objective, he kills it, right? I mean, if you put units out in the objectives, you can murder them. Yeah, I can, but I guess my point is, like, I can put no turn 1 pressure, and if we don't have durable units, what are you putting on those objectives? Because if you put Death Company or Sandguard, or even any sort of troops on any of those middle objectives, you're not going to hold any of them, right? Because the tower just going to instantly shoot you off. So, how are you scoring any primaries in like the first 3 turns? That's my issue, right? At least with the Impulsor, I can put the Impulsor on it. If they can burst through all the Impulsor, then I can unload the Blade Guard veterans, and I can get 8 for primary. Maybe. Alright, Captain on a Bike. Infernal Pistol, Rites of War, Armor and Dominus. Cool. Librarian, Veil of Time, Null Zone, Soul Warden, Psychic Fortress, Warlord trait, Soul Warden. Alright, no Psychic Mastery. Interesting. I feel like Psychic Mastery is really important on that Librarian. I feel like you could have put Soul Warden on the Captain as well by paying 1 CP for him. Angel's Art Exemplar. And then Sanguinary Priest with Selfless Healer. I feel like the strength of this Librarian, this Jump Librarian with Null Zone, is Psychic Mastery. If you don't have it, I think you should get it. Good evening, Ager. Did I say that already? Sorry, it's getting late. 11:15. 2 squads of Death Company with 4 hammers. Great. Sanguinary Ancient with Wrath of Baal. 3 squad of guards. 6 Infernal Pistols in each. 1 squad of Terminators. Assault Squad with the double Melta. Eviscerator. Infernal Pistol. Lightning Claw. Eliminators with just bolt rifles. Interesting choice to have bolt rifles on Eliminators. I feel like 1 squad of Eliminators with bolt rifles generally don't kill anything. Because it's only like 3 shots. You hit 80% of the time. They're toughness, strength 5, so you probably wound like 66% of the time. So the enemy makes 1 or 2 saves. So maybe you do 2 damage. Maybe you luck out and roll a 6. So every turn you could do a maximum of like 3 damage to an enemy character. 3 damage is not usually enough to kill them. If you start sniping the character, they'll just move out of cover or line of sight from the Eliminators. I don't know if 2 squads of Eliminators, fine. Eliminators with Las Fusils, fine. 1 squad of Eliminators with bolt rifles. Unless you're taking Quake bolts, I don't see the point. And then the Whirlwind with the Fight Last. So this sort of list is what I was just talking about into the Tau game. Like, into that Tau list, I feel like there is no way, unless the Tau player is bad, I think there's no way this list beats that on that map, right? So it really comes down to, and this was what I was saying about Jack's map against like the Harlequins. Like if you have a map where every objective is in obscured and you can sit all these units on those objectives more than an inch from the wall, so it's difficult to be charged, then you can jump out and kill indiscriminately, great. But like, maybe that works when the terrain is really in your favor, but quite often in the events I go to, terrain, you'll have objectives that are just flat out in the open. There's no terrain on them. So you need something to sit on them. I guess you've got one squad of Terminators, that's okay. Maybe you can do what I did and run out the Whirlwind and try and have it sit on an objective as well. But I don't think the 2 Death Company, 3 Sanguinary Guard list, I don't think it's good anymore. It's probably going to win some events, right? And people will see it win a few events, and people will give it validity because it wins some events. But I think there's going to be enough players that are playing it that are going to do really bad at events, right? Like, I think that's why Blood Angels probably had a 40% win rate on this last week or whatnot. And I guess we'll see that another couple of weeks of Arcs of Omen, we'll see what our win rate goes. We'll see if it changes much. But I think a lot of people will struggle. I do like all Infernal Pistol Sandguard. I do like the squads of Death Company like this. I just think you need some durability. And in the event that, the team event that I won, I think my durable units really helped. And I think in some ways that's kind of what Ball Predators are doing for me at the moment. They're just an 11 wounds, slightly durable. That's kind of how it goes. I didn't actually notice this was a 10-man Terminator squad. There's almost no point in it being a 10-man Terminator squad, considering you get those extra elite choices now. Oh no, right, yeah, that's 6 elites. Sorry, my bad. So there's a 10-man Terminator squad. Alright, so maybe it's better. But he's got no troops, right? Oh, I don't like it because he's got no troops. Okay. So he does have Rights of War, but yeah, no sticky objectives, no infiltrators. How prevalent are we expecting to see Chaos Demons, I guess? Right? Because that's why I'm running infiltrators. There's like Chaos Demons having those like sort of 6 or 7 inch charges. It's generally pretty scary for me. All these units now that I've said are super not survivable. Like Sanguinary Priest, Sanguinary Guard are not survivable in my opinion now. If demons are well represented, then I think the core of a Blood Angels list is 2 squads of infiltrators right now. I could be wrong, but I mean I'm playing other Marine armies and they're running 2 infiltrator squads. I'm probably gonna play a game as Black Templars on Wednesday night this week. It's probably gonna be Black Templars versus Iron Hands on the channel, and I'm probably gonna run infiltrators for the Black Templars. So I think I'm gonna try heavy intercessors with the Black Templars as well, just because I want to see them in action. But I think I'm going to run infiltrators. And the reason I'm going to play a game of Black Templars is twofold. Is one, I want to see how much stronger Black Templars are right now against Blood Angels. And 2, I just want to know what their durability is, in that they've basically been restored to their peak of durability, and a lot of stuff has come down in costs. So Black Templars are probably one of the biggest winners, right, in terms of I think when I looked at the meta watch, they were like the 3rd. Is this the... I wish there was a better way of searching the GW site for, like, rather than just clicking view all news, load more news, because that meta watch article is a few weeks ago now. Is this it? Yeah. No, that's the one about the LVO. There was one that showed win rates from the new season. Anyone know what one it was that showed the win rates for the new season? Maybe it was an Auspex Tactics video that had the win rates for the new season. Was it Auspex Tactics? Well, maybe I took a screenshot of it. Hold on, let me check. I don't know if I took the screenshot, but yeah, I think the 3 Black Templars Impulsors get multi-meltas. Yeah, all their vehicles get a free multi-melta. So
The Impulsor gets a free multi-melt, and because they don't need the shield dome, Highland Phoenix, they can basically run the Cyclone Missile Launcher in the Impulsor. So for 100 points, they get an Impulsor with a Cyclone Missile Launcher, the same 5-up Invulnerable Save, and it's not quite a Cyclone Missile Launcher. It's no Impulsor. It's basically a Bella. I don't know what the fuck that says. Bellicatus missile array. So you get that. So you can shoot Icarus missiles, or you can shoot Crack missiles. What's kind of mad though, like, is you could actually just take the orbital comm array. In your command phase, one model for your army with an orbital comm array that's not been used for this battle can call in the orbital barrage. So you could run the orbital barrage, I guess. But yeah, I'm gonna run 3 for Black Templars. I think I'm gonna run an Impulsor, a Gladiator, and a Repulsor, and all 3 of them will get the multi-meltas, right? So just getting 3 multi-meltas for 0 points is pretty nice. Blood Angels were the worst performing chapter this week with 39%. I think that's because a lot of people are still running the older lists that have very little survivability into a high AP meta, I guess. And the meta, at least in my experience, people are still bringing high AP stuff, right? Like, just because Armor of Contempt went away didn't make everybody suddenly go, well, I'll just start taking a lot less AP, right? Nobody said that. No one's really doing that. Primaris stuff has too many weapons for the same names. They're pretty similar, aren't they? Have you thought about including Guilliman with the Templars? I have, but I've built what I thought was a pretty cool Templar list, Chip Hazard. And I obviously haven't run it. But I wanted to run it because I wanted to see what it's going to do. And I want to run it into Iron Hands because let's be real, Iron Hands are like the most killy chapter. I think they're second in the meta. Like, they just kill. So it'll be really interesting to see if Black Templars can survive out against Iron Hands, because like I said, Iron Hands are literally the most killy because it'll neutralize a ton of their AP, right? Because they're like half their army shooting at -5. Well, into my Black Templars, the best he's ever going to get is basically -2 because everything will save on 5s. And you'll never be able to, like, if he's shooting Marines and stuff, you'll never be able to wound on 2s because they have transhuman. And he's got that Contemptor Dreadnought that does all the mortals. Well, Black Templar's getting an 8 5-up Feel No Pain against mortals as well. So it's like all the things Iron Hands are doing really well. The Black Templars are kind of maybe able to deal with it. We'll see. I'm sure everyone's running higher EP now still because it's cheaper. I mean, that's a good call. Dark Angels are really strong at the moment. I think the win rates, because I looked at the win rates, I think it's Iron Hands first at like 55%, and it was like Dark Angels at 53, and then I think it was BTs at like 51. It's a 5+ not just against mortals. They have a 5-up Invuln save, and they have a 5-up against mortals if you take the Vow, Highland Phoenix. So the 4 benefits you get as Black Templars are never wound on 1s and 2s, 5-up Feel No Pain against mortals, 5-up Invulnerable save, and reroll all advancing charges. That's like their 4 things. But there's no flexibility in there, and that like Black Templars are not allowed to be successor chapters because they are already an Imperial Fist successor chapter. Whereas, like, I guess with the Iron Hands, you could make a successor that maybe flicks things up a bit. They can get a 5-up Feel No Pain from a Chaplain, yes, and they can also get a Chaplain Litany that makes it that every time they roll a 6 to hit. So I was thinking Chaplain Litany on the Blade Guard because they get a lot of attacks, right? Every time you roll a 6 to hit or wound, I don't remember which one, it does an additional mortal wound as well. So you know how like a lot of these new armies all got like that 1 CP strat almost, that so basically every new army that came out got like a 1 CP strat that could do 6 mortal wounds. Unfortunately, that came out like Blood Angels never got that. That came out sort of beyond that. But if you're doing Black Templars, then Grimaldus can cast that, and Grimaldus I mean, there's cool things about Grimaldus anyway, in that he's just got like an innate, so you don't need to spend any CP on him. He's the same points as Lamartis, so 5 wounds, 4 attacks. He has like 3 little servitors with him, Cenobite servitors. One servitor is giving him all Black Templars within 6 core and character. Whenever they advance, they do D3 plus 3 rather than D6. One servitor is making that all Black Templars core and character within 6 gets 6 up, feel no pain. And then one servitor is basically making all his litanies cast on 2s rather than 3s. So, and I guess they're ablative wounds for him as well, right? Like, and then the other thing is if Grimaldus dies on a 4-up, same rule as Guilliman, on a 4-up you can set him up again on the battlefield with 3 wounds remaining. So he comes back to life with 3 out of 5 wounds. It's not bad on a 4-up. He can also attempt to deny 1 psychic power as if he was a psyker, which is also pretty cool. A lot of stuff for 120 points when you compare to Lamarta's, right? And then, yeah, you don't really have to spend any CP on him, right? So I think it could be decent. So yeah, I'm going to play Black Templars this week to get a handle on how they stand up against Iron Hands. And also, I don't know if anyone will be taking Black Templars to the event I'm going to, but I haven't played Black Templars probably in about a year. I played as them on my channel a while back, right? Like it was a real while back. But that was more like a fun list, but it was also good. It was also good learning or practice, whatever you want to call it. 10 months ago is the last time I played as or played against Black Templars. So yeah, I mean I've got the models now because I was converting the Guilliman. So yeah, I'm gonna try it. But I'm pretty confident that my GT list is going to be the Guilliman Blood Angels list. Like I'm 90% there on that. But yeah, let me play this game as Black Templars this week and see how they do. So Andrew's going to run the same Iron Hands list, which is, we know it's a crazy Iron Hands list, right? They did have the stuff pre-OC, AOC. Well, they didn't have all the things, right? Like they had the survivability in that, but they didn't have all the free war gear, right? So basically, like I'll run all their stuff. The list that I built was like 2,475 points DTM. So basically that list dropped 25% in points. So they got all their survivability back. And if we go back 6 months, it'd be equivalent of running like a 2,500 point army because I get free multi-metals everywhere, I get free war gear everywhere, etc, etc, etc. Not the buffing Voxic Spirit and Chaplain for extra points. I like that Voxic Spirit and Chaplain, but I'm not a huge Chaplain on a bike fan. I used to do. I feel like I could get on board. Here's my dilemma, right? If I wasn't going to run Guilliman, I'm going to run 3 characters, right? And I'm going to run Chapter Master on a bike. I'm going to run the Sanguinary Priest because I feel like you need those 2, right? Like for my list to work, I need Forlorn Fury Death Company, or I need Chapter Master rerolls Death Company and the Salt Doctrine, right? I can't live without those 2. So it only gives me one other choice. So if I took the Bike Chaplain, then I do have like a giant aura of leadership, Soul Warden, which is cool. I reroll charges also, which is cool. So it's like I'd either take that or I'd take the Psychic Mastery Priest. And the Psychic Mastery Priest gives some stuff as well, like it gives a Deny, and it gives you the Psychic Fortress, and it gives you the Null Zone. But maybe I don't need it because I've already said, like, I've already got my 3 durable units and like my 2 Terminator squads. It'd be really useful if they make their deep. So yeah, maybe that's the way to do it. Chaplain on a bike, Chapter Master on a bike, Sanguinary Priest, and sort of just live with the fact that we have no Psyker. You have to spend a lot of CP to make that work, though, right? Like, I guess 2 CP spend on the Chaplain, guess maybe no CP spend on the priest, and then like 1 or 2 CP spend on the captain, so you've Rights of War, maybe add Armor and Domitus, so maybe you're spending 4 CP before the game. That lets you spend 1 CP on your pre-game move, and then still have 2 if you want to go and do a interrupt, or I guess whirlwind. I don't think you need the priest. I think if you want to do Forlorn Fury, you always need the priest. Unless you're figuring out a way of starting with like way more CP. The only way I've seen of not having the priest, you get CP if you take Dante, yeah, but you get no Rights of War, and Rights of War wins me games like all the time. Like all the time I win games because of Rights of War. I mean, which Dante had Rights of War? Cool. Yeah, no, I'm taking off in a second. I think I was going to finish up like half an hour ago. Was there anything else to say about this list? Yeah, I hate the fact it's got no troop choices. I guess I see it as a bit of a skew list, I guess, in that, like, you got the 2 Terminator squads, but then what are you holding objectives with? Like, what have you got in the backfield sitting holding objectives in this list? I mean, Eliminators, which aren't survivable. I guess you can hold with the Whirlwind, you can hold 1. Don't really have much Deep Strike Denial. I think Deep Strike Denial is important now. I like Infiltrators, I like the stickiness of them. Rights of War and Ancient instead, then Dante can give CP. I mean, I guess, and then you start going to the point where you've got 4 characters and you've spent an awful lot of points onto characters. It's really stupid that they didn't reduce Dante's. Dante should be like 140 points, same as the Chapter Master on a bike. It makes no sense that they left him at 165. Unless they're going to bring in a Primaris Dante and he's still going to cost 165. Yeah. Okay, lots to talk about. It's probably going to be Iron Hands on... Well, hopefully it's going to be Black Templars Iron Hands on Wednesday night. We'll see how that goes. And then probably after that, we'll continue... if you missed the start of the stream, I did fix my Gilliman, or my Gilladred. I shortened his staff because it was fucking stupid how long it was. And I pinned it back on, so after dropping him on the stream last night, he's gonna be ready for my next battle for sure. I always want the Ancient for the 14-inch move. I like the 14-inch move. I also really like the +1 to hit, but you can't have everything all the time. I think when I used to run the Ancient, I only used to run 2 HQ. 4 HQ feels like we're pushing it, because our HQ generally don't do too much killing. So, like... Yeah, 4 feels to me like it's really pushing it. Some people get away with 4 HQ. I don't like it. Each to their own, I guess. Alright, thank you so much for watching tonight, guys. I hope you did get some value, or you learned something out of the stream. I'll be back probably multiple times this week. I always am. I think I'm not filming a Grots episode on Thursday, so I'll probably be painting on Thursday. Probably painting something like my Dreadnought. Alright, enjoy the rest of your evening. It's Monday tomorrow, so enjoy that too. I'll catch you some point this week, I'm sure. Thanks for watching. If you didn't hit the like button yet, please do. If you're new to the channel, consider subscribing. I need a live battle report sometime this week for sure.